Welcome back to our series regarding proteins. Today we are presenting the third video of our series. So if you haven't watched the previous two videos, please do so. The link is in the description box below. So today we are going to be speaking about what happens in our body when we consume too much of protein. Most people are consuming too much of protein, and some have completely replaced carbs and fat with a high protein diet, cutting down on the other aspects of a balanced diet. So, in this situation, we must understand that our body cannot store excess protein. It has to be eliminated if it is excess, unlike sugars or carbohydrates or fat, which can be stored within our body. So, can you tell us what actually happens inside our body when we have excess or only protein?
Yeah, but I heard you explain it very well when I just dropped into your Sirijivana 3-day session.
You were a huge distraction. Everyone turned to you and stopped listening to me actually.
No, but after that the session went very well. So why don't you go ahead and explain that? It was very comprehensive and very nice.
Okay. God has given us a backup mechanism in a scenario where we are not actually eating any food, where we are having starvation. We have a mechanism where the body can dissolve its own protein, which it had used to build the body, and utilize it to again synthesize glucose from the protein and then burn that glucose to get energy. This process is known as gluconeogenesis. But where does all this happen? It happens inside our liver. So, if you are not providing sufficient carbohydrate or fat to the body, which would be the first and second option for it to get energy, it then turns to using the protein which you have given it. It needs to fully process this protein, and the liver cells have to work a lot to be able to strip out the nitrogenous part of the protein. So what actually makes a difference between a carbohydrate and a protein is the nitrogenous substance which is bound to make it into a structural protein. So now the nitrogenous part has to be stripped, and then your liver cells need to utilize the carbon, hydrogen and oxygen to rebuild it into the 6 carbon unit of glucose, and then that needs to be burnt in your cells to release energy. So it's quite a long and strenuous process for the liver. However, the liver cells have very good regenerative power. So though they are overworking and though they are under stress and strain, because they have a good healing power, it's not evident to most of us that our liver is under stress. I mean, the reports of LFT usually come out normal. But then what else happens is that all the nitrogenous waste which is produced as a result of this metabolism has to be dealt with too. And who takes the burden of cleaning up of the body? It's our kidneys. And unfortunately, kidneys are organs which do not have such a good regenerative power like the hepatocytes of the liver. So the nephrons are going to face the damage of overworking and start leaking protein in the urine. Protein is supposed to be held back in your body, but now because of the overstrain on the kidneys, protein starts leaking in the urine, and that's what we call as proteinuria or albuminuria. It can also happen in some autoimmune conditions, but then this is how the kidney is being affected by the excessive metabolic waste. And then slowly and steadily, your creatinine levels start to raise, and that's when we identify kidney problem to have happened in the body. So where is the creatine, which was actually a waste product? It was supposed to be eliminated, but now the levels of creatinine start raising in your blood, and that reflects in the renal function tests as serum creatinine. So slowly and steadily, as the creatinine levels rise, we start feeling symptoms like it might be apparent as nausea, sometimes vomiting, swelling in the body, edema, pedal edema, different symptoms which people might come up with because of the kidney being under stress. And in the blood, you will see another metabolic waste, which is uric acid on the race. And what happens to this uric acid? It starts getting deposited inside the joints of the body. So then we end up with a condition known as gout, where we have very acute pain in especially the small joints, the great toe or the fingers or the thumb, where the deposit is taking place. And if it becomes really severe, the crystals of uric acid might start coming out, may make a pathway to exit the body by rupturing the skin, and small crystals might also come out. That's very rare and
Advanced.
extreme cases. Yes. So these are all the possibilities which we are actually seeing because
And
people,
urea also increases.
yes, blood urea increases and serum creatinine increases, and side by side, your hemoglobin starts to drop. So the reason for this is erythropoietin is a requirement which is secreted by the kidney. A healthy kidney releases erythropoietin, which acts on the bone marrow for the synthesis of red blood cells. So once a kidney damage has begun, erythropoietin is not secreted in sufficient quantities, and automatically bone marrow is not as active as it should be. So in your blood, your hemoglobin levels start dropping, and automatically you start feeling tired, and you might have dyspnea and difficulty when you're climbing steps, you feel exhausted. All these are other possible symptoms.
See, now what is actually happening is imbalances are created because in the name of high protein content food, you are actually taxing the liver and kidney. And the result is the imbalance of functioning of liver and kidney. So they have to be coordinated and synchronized, and this is getting disturbed.
And these are such vital organs in our body that sometimes by the time we realize, the kidney damage has progressed to an extent where it's really difficult to get back to normalcy. And other than this, a lot of people face gastric issues because of consuming a lot of protein, not being able to digest it.
Yes.
So bloating and gas getting blocked, and
Yeah, bloating
catches.
and pains in
Yeah.
the body.
Yeah.
And the most important problem is to deal with the nitrogen, which we cannot burn. This is the very important point we should learn. So, excess fat is actually okay in its sense that if you burn, you work out, it gets to glucose and then it is burnt. So, there is a smooth passage for high amount of fat to burn, and the left out nitrogen content is the problem in the case of protein. So the difference is this. So you have excess fat, you can burn if you work out.
Really work out, yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Whereas protein, whatever carbohydrate associated with the protein in the case of vegetarian, rather plant protein, that adds the carbs, which are again not regulated. And so imagine you have worked out, you work very hard, it's gone. And now the problem of dealing with the protein of 20% from the plant protein also comes into picture. And that's what she has explained to you all along. What is it that protein can start the imbalance and damage two organs? One organ can replenish itself faster, whereas the other organ, that is kidney, the nephrons, take almost 7 years to replenish itself. So this is where the problems are.
So at the end of the day, it's not, some people think, okay, so I don't need so much protein, but still let me cut down on carbs or cut down on fat and still have a high protein diets because it keeps me full and it's not going to harm me. But on a short term, you might see results like if you're on a keto diet or a high protein diet, you might immediately see your sugar levels coming down, or you might immediately see your glucose levels coming down in the blood, because obviously you're not flushing your blood with glucose by eating polished rice or sugar, refined sugar or wheat in the form of atta or maida. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a load on your liver and on your kidney, and immediately you might see that you have weight loss or control in your blood pressure or control in your diabetes, but then you're going to pay a toll for this, and your kidneys and liver on the long run. It is absolutely not suggested to have a very high protein diet, because at the end of the day your vital organs are going to be under stress and strain.
Bear with us. We are being repetitive, but we still want to repeat. 1 gram per kilogram body weight
We have
is absolutely not a scientific balanced diet. So, what is it then? The ratio? Who has decided this? It is simply the nature decides it. When nature provides protein in the form of dicots, their roots, nitrogen fixing bacteria, the symbiotic existence ultimately produces approximately 2 to 2.5 quintals.
I think you should elaborate on this point, because maybe not everyone understands.
Yeah.
Please elaborate a little more on the symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. Nitrogen has to be fixed from the air, and for that, plants cannot do. What assists the plants is the bacteria that are nodular parts that exist on dicotyledon's root system. So,
Form rhizomes.
so they are the agents of fixing the nitrogen and then making the first urea, uric acid, all these nitrogenous compounds that slowly get into amino acids, then the protein is synthesized. So
the bacteria are living in the roots of the plants, in the ground. They take the nitrogen from the atmosphere, fix it, which needs to be absorbed by the plant through the roots, and then converted into the proteinaceous
amino acids, then the
protein.
Yeah. Okay. So this is as simple as that. So now we have plants fixing the nitrogen, converting into amino acids, then protein. The acreage, the yield is up to 2 to 2.5 quintals. Whereas the same acre land produces 10 quintals of cereal grains. So the ratio, now you see 5:1 or 4:1 is fixed by nature.
So what he means is, if you have an acre of land and you just spill the seeds of any dicotyledon,
like tur dal, moong dal,
masoor dal,
dal,
peanuts. Yes.
uh,
So by dicotyledon, we mean the uh, plants which the seed can be split into two halves. So that's why dicotyledon. So these are the plants which have the nitrogen fixing bacteria, and these are the plants which have a higher percentage of
20 to 25%
protein. Yes. So
this is the ratio.
Okay. So these plants, if you spill the seeds in an acre, will give you around 2 to 3 quintals of yield. But in the same acre of land, if you put the seeds of any grains,
cereals
like ragi, jowar, bajra, or are positive millets. Yes, all are positive millets. You will get around 8 to 10 quintals of output. So that gives us the ratio in which nature is producing these crops.
So your ratio of the consumption of these two, the balance is 4:1.
Yeah.
So that automatically turns out to be 5 grams percentage wise, 5 to 7%.
Can you explain how we end up with this percentage?
Because 20 grams in the dicotyledons.
Okay.
And you have, say, almost zero protein in some of the grains.
Okay.
Though it is not true, because
our positive millets do have a balanced
protein.
Okay.
So overall, now when you mix 20 grams of dicots and 80 grams of cereals,
100 grams
you have food. And then out of this 20 grams now have 5 grams of protein.
Yeah. So percentage, 20% of that 20. Yes.
So approximately 5 to 10% of protein in our this. So we are getting up to 9 to 11% of protein with this creative mix of dicots and grains. So that is perfect percentage for our body.
Yes.
So you have protein, you have carbohydrates,
and if you're eating millets, you have even fiber
and some omega acids are also available. So that's how this food becomes complete.
Yes.
And there is no stress and strain on liver, kidney, or even mitochondria, because the left out toxic material is completely mopped up by the lignons that are available. So it's a complete system. And this is what has been practiced in, let me not say all over the world, we know about Indian continent, and this has been the practice for time immemorial.
And like we say, we're making idli or dosa.
The classic ratio is that. These are the things that we need to keep in mind. So 1 gram per kilogram is not a scientific ratio, it is a consumption ratio, because they're producing 1600 million tons of soybean, which is genetically modified.
And using it to produce
more protein.
Animal protein as well. So direct and in terms of plant protein, soybean being promoted and being fed to the animals and animal protein.
And sadly, we are now, they are developing the narrative that protein means non-vegetarian. So that consumption is increased. Because approximately you need to have an animal consuming up to 4 to 5 kilos of this mix to produce 1 kilo of meat. So it's only a matter of consuming larger and larger amounts, so that their fertilizers, herbicides, they are all coming into play. So you understand, it's not logical or scientific ratio that they are coming up with 1 gram per kilogram body weight, whereas natural God's given ratio is approximately 9 to 11 in your food that you are taking. So percent of food, that is. So this is the real scientific information that you all need to be learning and practicing. So be aware of these narratives that are being built for business purposes.
So to conclude, we are not going to be able to, it's not practical to weigh grams of protein or grain when you're cooking. So maintaining the ratio of 1:4 or 1:5 of your dicotyledon to grains is going to give you the perfect
That
balanced diet, and the
which does
grain.
not strain or stress your vital organs.
And
That's very important.
yes, if those grains are millets, then you're fully taken care of. You have a complete nutrition which is going to give you overall health.
So eat millets and lentils with a good ratio. You have everything that your body needs. You can go to gym, you can run marathon, you can play tennis, you can play cricket.
Any sport.
Absolutely no dearth for energy, and without fatigue you can concentrate on your efficient games and all wonderful things that you can get from good exercise.
I think you answered one of the most frequently asked question which is coming up, that do people who are into sports need a higher
So
percentage?
maybe without knowing the question I have answered.
Yeah, so when we speak about sports, it's mainly stamina, which plays a real important role for having a long time energy to be able to sustain on the
And that's
field,
millets,
whichever.
of course, that's
Yes.
millets.
So people need to understand that slow release of glucose means for up to 6 hours after you've had your meal, you're still going to be receiving small quantities of glucose into your blood, so gradually, yeah, in a regulated way, that you will be energetic throughout the day, and not just for a sudden spike of energy which gives you so much energy at once, and then you're suddenly going to drop energy and feel hungry again very soon. So that doesn't happen when you're consuming millets, making them ideal food even for people who are into sports and who need to.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another myth created that people who are doing physical exercise, sports, and
Work,
gym,
yeah,
they need high protein.
higher protein.
That's not true. It is the protein content is the same for everyone. How you train your muscles, how you put your practice out on a daily basis, that's what makes you a good athlete and a good bodybuilder or whatever you are interested in.
Yeah, let's leave that. Let's pick up on that
Some
topic
other
next
time.
for the next session, probably.
Yeah.
So we'll be
No,
having.
I think we need to talk about the animal protein and this plant protein little more, maybe next session.
Yeah, so we'll have probably one more episode where we'll be giving you information regarding proteins. So stay tuned, and after that, the final episode shall be question answers. So please do feel free to leave your questions in the comment box below. Thank you.